Hey, welcome to today's video. Let's talk about habits. Now, this information is coming from a book called The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. And the first thing we want to understand is the components of a habit. And he refers to this as the habit loop. And so there are three parts. The first one is the cue, followed by the behavior or the routine, and then there's the reward that we get out of it. Now, when it comes to the cue, we're talking about four basic things. The first one is location, right? So you get into a certain place, like maybe you go to a restaurant and it kind of triggers you to overeat or choose unhealthy foods. The next thing is time, right? Maybe specific times of the day trigger certain behaviors. People, right, that you may be around that trigger certain behaviors, or an absence of people, right? So all of a sudden, when everyone leaves, that may trigger a behavior. And finally is your emotional state. And I think we can all relate to this one. And so those cues or triggers happen and they kick off certain behaviors. And it is through those behaviors that we expect to get a certain reward. Now, let's talk a little bit about the reward for a second. There's the physical reward, which is pretty obvious, and I think this is what most people focus on. So, you end up eating ice cream because it tastes good, right? You overeat, potato chips and cookies because it feels good to be full, right? And to get that sugar into your body. Our body likes it. So there's the physical reward and joy of it. That's part of it. But I think a big thing to understand here is that a bigger part of that reward is actually emotional. And if you can start to look at the reward on the emotional level, that's where you really start to get some leverage on your habits. And so what I mean is that a lot of times, maybe someone is snacking at night regularly. And yeah, it tastes good. That's part of it. But a bigger part is that for them, they are getting an emotional sense of fulfillment from it, right? And specifically, it may be because they worked hard all day. Now this is their chance to relax, right? Or the day was really stressful, and now they're going to eat and just kind of check out of life for a few minutes and just enjoy themselves. And so a lot of times the rewards emotionally, it can be a sense of relaxation, checking out, a distraction from stress in your life. And so there's this deeper emotional thing going on that's driving a lot of the behavior. Okay, so how do we change our bad habits? And in the book, he talks about the golden rule of habit change, being that we want to keep the same cue, we want to keep the same reward, but we want to focus on changing the behavior in the middle and how we're creating the reward. And this is the key. And I've seen this, so many times over the years where what a lot of people do is they say, okay, I'm going to get rid of the habit, but they don't think about the reward aspect to it. And so again, if we think back to someone who snacks at night, if that's your form of relaxation, if that's how you kind of decompress from the day, and all of a sudden you say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, I'm going to get rid of the eating, and again, they don't realize it, but they're also getting rid of the reward, the chances of that lasting long are not good because you need that reward, you need that downtime. Okay, so we still want to keep the reward, we want to keep the downtime, the relaxation. We just want to focus on a better, healthier way to do it. And so this is where you want to put your attention and your energy into. And again, it's not, just because you recognize this, just because you start to change it, it's not instantaneous. It's a consistent process of change, experimenting what works, what doesn't, and continuing with it. But again, the focus is on that middle part and changing the routine. And so when you do that, again, you're still getting the reward. And that's the main thing, because it's that reward that we're unconsciously focusing on and that we need in order to feel right. Because I've seen lots of people where they will change their habits up and they're starting to lose weight, they're feeling healthier, but they're under a ton of stress because they have given up their method for reducing the stress. Okay, so we got to keep that reward in there. And so what it means for you is that you need to bring some awareness in the process. Identify the habits you want to change, but then break them down into these sections. Recognize what the cues are so that you can prepare for them, right? Recognize the routine that you're using and understand that you probably just somehow picked up that routine. You never intentionally planned to eat ice cream at night in order to relax. It just kind of happened, okay? And then recognize the reward you're after, specifically the emotional part of it, okay? What are the emotional needs that this habit is filling for you? Because they're there. And the more you can identify that, the easier it's going to be to come up with alternative behaviors that will give you that. Okay? So spend some time with this. Again, it's a process of trial and error, but stick with it because it's one of the most effective ways to truly transform your habits. And the best news is this. Once you do actually transform your habit and create a new one, is that they run on pretty much autopilot. And so they don't take a lot of effort. They don't take a lot of energy to do. And that's the key, because we're setting up here for long-term success. And so in order to do that, we want to make our weight and our health as automatic as possible. And so the best way to do that is to focus on your habits. Okay? So take some time, think about this, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.